This week, we had the second to last episode ever of the Owl House air, and with that in mind, I want to talk about all of my theories for what will happen in the upcoming final episode of this season and the final episode of the series as a whole. My name is Deepcut, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive into it. Season 2 ended with the Day of Unity, which many of us expected to be the climax of the series, but with the introduction of the Collector, the Day of Unity became absolute child's play, and we were left seeing the Boiling Isles being reconstructed by this creepy spirit while the Owl House kids escaped to the Earth. Season 3 had been cut down to 3 episodes of 44 minutes each from its original full season order, essentially giving it 6 episodes worth of content in a more epic hour-long format. The first episode dealt largely with Luz and the gang adjusting to life in the human realm and trying to find a way back to the Boiling Isles. This episode was extremely important, as it gave Luz some perspective on everything that had happened, everything that she had in many ways helped cause, and how that was all because of her naive decision to run off to the Boiling Isles. Because of this, Luz decided that if they happened to be able to get back to the Boiling Isles and fix everything, that she can't allow herself to stay there. Luz's mother was suddenly presented with a very strange situation. The Boiling Isles is something she never would have let Luz go to, and while she doesn't really want her to return to the Boiling Isles per se, she sees Luz denying herself that option as Luz trying to punish herself. By the time we get to the second episode, with everyone returning to the Boiling Isles, Camila is rightfully horrified by the Boiling Isles, but she keeps trying to insist it's better than she thinks because she is actively trying to encourage Luz. This isn't to say that Camila wants Luz to run away here now, and though Luz has proven she can take care of herself, I still think she really wants Luz back and safe in the human realm. But she can't stand the idea of Luz punishing herself being the reason that this happens, especially after how much Luz has grown because of this place. It's a very complex position she is in, and one that will almost certainly have to be resolved in the finale, but perhaps not quite in the way that you think. Now, paralleling Luz, we have the Collector, who in the most recent episode we saw to be a sort of cosmic reflection of Luz, the version of her story being played out among these godlike figures. The Collector, of course, is just one of at least 4 immortal beings that watch over the universe. After seeing many things come and pass away, they began to collect specimens of notable species so that there may always be some sort of record of them, even if only in this weird toy form, though they are meant just to be a sort of preservation system that can be turned back into their natural state as opposed to actual action figures. Our Collector is a child compared to the other Collectors and, like Luz, seemed to have less of an interest in the reality of his situation, which, to him, on his scale, seemed to be boring adults in a boring world doing boring work. He didn't want to just observe the worlds, he wanted to interact with them, to play. The other Collectors seemed to forbid this. In the book about the Collector that King reads, we see an image indicating that some human-like species was worshipping the Collectors in the past, similar to how the witches and demons who hunt titans worshipped our Collector, but seemingly in a more wholesome way. However, in one passage of the book, it's indicated that some of these lower species meddled in the Collector's plans, and that in response the Collectors began to destroy entire planets, with the air itself being scorched. This says to me that the Collectors had interacted with lower beings of intelligence in the past, but eventually faced some attacks from these beings, and thus, to preserve themselves as well as the many species they collected, they decided to have more of a hands-off approach, and began destroying any species that evolved in a way that could interact with them too directly. Our child Collector seems to have come into existence after this change happened, and could never understand why the rules were in place, why he couldn't go and interact with the lower beings that they constantly observed. In this way, Luz's relationship with her mother and her world is the same as the Collector's relationship with the other Collectors and his plane of existence. Both are just children who want to live in a sort of fantasy world, and interestingly, both see the Boiling Isles not as the actual answer to their problem, but rather a stage to project their fantasy onto. When Luz first arrived at the Boiling Isles, it wasn't the dreamlike fantasy world she hoped for, and even as she began to adjust to the horror, she continued to project her fantasy ideas onto the world. The Collector does this in a more literal sense, not allowing the Boiling Isles to be what it is, but making it sparkly and more whimsical. This very much embodies the saying, "as above, so below," in which the cosmic drama of the gods is said to be reflected in our more physical existence here on Earth. Luz, however, has decided that her punishment is to be removed from the Boiling Isles, so she can't cause the kind of disastrous changes that she played a part in by getting mixed up in the world with her naive ideas and intentions. With that in mind, Luz isn't here just to stop the Collector, but the only way she will be able to rationalize the Boiling Isles as being safe from him is if he is permanently banned or exiled as well. This is a dramatic contrast to the current plan of King, who has decided that even imprisoning the Collector is not a good move for them, not just because the Collector did eventually get out, but because he is starting to feel the pain of the Collector. He mentions having a sense of understanding from his own experience, which is true, but that experience is also directly tied to Luz, the story they share, and its similarities. The Titans are interesting in that they evolved not just to interact with the Collectors, but to be able to fight against them, and apparently seal them away. They seem to be a sort of safeguard protecting lower species from the Collectors, perhaps not even letting them collect a few specimens for preservation's sake. King as well acts as a sort of mediator between the two, his loyalty being to Luz, but because of how both he and Luz have grown, he sees the potential the Collector has too, and how tragic it would be for his potential to be wasted, never getting to be the best version of himself the way Luz and King are both becoming. After getting to the archive at the end of the last episode, I believe Luz will find some hidden book about the Collector with information on how they can defeat him, seal him away, or what have you. We see in paintings around the castle that his fall into existence may have been possible due to a cosmic alignment of stars and planets. We know he is capable of rearranging those things himself, as he did to stop the Day of Unity, and I would not be surprised if Luz's plan was to lure the Collector into a game that tricks him into making this exact alignment, the way King more or less tricked the Collector into stopping the Day of Unity. This alignment, I believe, would send the Collector back to his higher realm with the other Collectors, a punishment similar to the one Luz wishes to give herself as she returns to the human realm. If she and King are able to cross paths before this happens, they may not agree on what is the best thing to do, and Luz may, in a sense, betray King by trying to do this to the Collector, when King just wants to find a way to make peace between all these crazy beings so that they can live harmoniously. I of course don't think that Luz will go through with this plan, however, and by the end of this finale, I think the Collector will have an opportunity to make amends. Additionally, I don't imagine that Luz will refuse to be a part of the Demon Realm, but instead, I think the ending may be similar to Star versus the Forces of Evil, and we'll see the Demon Realm and the Boiling Isles sort of merge together. Traditionally, stories like this end with a character being stuck in their homeworld and having to give up a life of magic, it being a metaphor for their childhood play and fantasies. But like with Star versus the Forces of Evil, I expect some sort of subversion of that, as the Boiling Isles has become so much more than just a fantasy escape for Luz. But with the celestial alignment perhaps being used to bring this Collector into the physical world, and Luz maybe making the Collector remake this alignment in the stars using his powers, perhaps the other Collectors will finally make an appearance as well. This could have been done to suck the Collector back into his higher reality as discussed before, but the other Collectors could come in themselves, like Luz's mother came to the Boiling Isles. Perhaps they are the ones who will actually end up stopping the Collector and saving the day. But what do you guys think? Put your theories on the finale for the Owl House in the comments down below, and hit that subscribe button because we have more Owl House videos coming. See you guys next time.